and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and we're back this week with a new guest. He is one of my closest mates. He is the most reliable guy I know, period, without a doubt. He's a rock and roller, and I've already given him a big intro. He's a Star Wars nerd. He's all of the good things in life. He's a killer, and it's Jordan Green, everybody.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Jordan, obviously for the listeners, they don't know you as well as I do, but what would be like the first thing you would introduce yourself to people as?
Oh, I don't know, it depends who I'm introducing to. If we're going to go for a blanket term, I'd just say I'm a reasonably solid guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're better than that, though, mate. I think you're better than that.
Well, I'm very flattered by that, mate.
No, 100%. And starting it off, because when we first met, we were well. There's two ways we could put it. So I knew you through Ali, who's been on the podcast from a very young age, probably around 7 or 8. But we didn't really know each other properly until I would say
it took a few years.
Yeah, probably until I was around. I think I at the time was around 18 or so, something along those lines.
Yeah, it was definitely sort of post-school
time, and I tell you what, I was so into rock. I just had this period of my life where I was just going through this stage where I was just like, everything was about the new pop punk scene that was basically blowing up. I had the best sort of period during 2015, 2014, where we had this just burst of new music, and you were there.
The same thing. Yeah.
You were there, man. You were the person, basically the connoisseur, as I like to put it, who's pushed this forward, and you're still going strong to this day. So I will get around to a question. But I think what I would like to ask is what got you into this sort of music in the first place?
We go back about maybe 25 years now, probably, if not more. My dad was always big on his heavy metal, and I'd come home from school every day and he'd be in the workshop because he used to be a goldsmith, so he had a workshop at home many moons ago. Yeah. I'd come home from school, Iron Maiden would be blasting on the stereo, and went from there.
Mate, that's Iron Maiden by your dad. I mean, it's so funny that your dad did that, because the same thing happened with mine. I was introduced, although not by Iron Maiden, but rather by American Idiot by Green Day, by my dad.
That one got a lot of plays in our car as well. I think with that, I found that myself through watching things like Kerrang and the Skies TV, all the old music channels, and a lot of my friends at school and stuff as well. We all just would bump the head out of this Green Day stuff, and then ended up picking up CDs. Mum and dad ended up liking it too. Still do.
Do you remember the top 10 for Kerrang? Do you remember the TV show? You'd get up on a Saturday, Sunday, and you'd come in.
I used to love that, dude.
Mate, I miss those periods of times. It's like the feeling of discovering new music. There is nothing better for me personally. When I remember discovering Mallory Knox, and I don't know if you know that they're
I've heard of them.
Yeah, 2013 was their year, basically. They're one of those bands, and the same. Ironically, I discovered the story so far through YouTube. It was not through Kerrang, but through YouTube, because of the YouTube algorithm, which is a little weird.
I remember where I found them, but yeah, I went nuts for story so far. I still love them. I think they've grown a lot as a band as well.
Dude, I love it. I still to this day, because I've seen them live on my own, and I think you've done the same.
Yeah.
I want us to go together at some point. We got to rock out,
dude. That would be so good.
Because we're both as nuts about that band as one another, I think. And
as soon as we're all allowed to do normal people stuff again, we've got to make that happen.
Mate, I've kept this podcast so politically clean at the moment that I'm so glad that we've kept it on the music topic. I think the topic of COVID has come up.
Don't get me started.
It's like, it's just getting people down, man. But on a positive note, music, the music scene, even though it's getting downtrodden on at the moment, I think it's going to come back with a bang. I think that there's going to be a lot of people wanting to get out there and see some live.
I think there's ways to adapt as well. So it's got to move with the times. Live music is out of the question at the moment. But if you have ways to do it, now's the time to write. and rehearse and practice and do the social media side of things.
Oh, dude, couldn't agree more. I think one of my favorite comedians is basically taken that, because comedy can't be done at the moment live, and he's basically used his Instagram as a way to create these short form videos where
Yeah.
he's able to do stand up. And I'm like, dude, you're changing the game, not just for one comedian, but for like the sort of Instagram video store in that sense.
Well, especially now they've introduced Reels and Instagram TV and Live and those sort of stuff. There's just a lot of ways to get your content out really easily.
Yes, 100%. And it's so much fun for me personally. I see this on Instagram every now, seeing like old clips of Green Day, old clips of like the old rock, and it does remind you of those sort of.
Dude, there's this page I found. I think it's 23 Punk or something like that. You might have seen me share a bunch of it.
Yeah.
But they just, I don't know where they find them, but they source all these really old like 90s and noughties punk photos.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like Rancid and Green Day playing their first gig and stuff. It's so cool.
Dude,
Really
you know,
cool
there's nothing that can compare. For me personally, I remember discovering this when I was around 18 when I first met you, was the Blink-182 Green Day combo with, and this is what killed me even more, Jimmy Eat World. So that lineup happened in 2001, 2002 time. I was like 6 or 7 years old, but the fact that lineup happened, like that's
like
crazy.
The perfect noughties punk combo.
It's bro, we were like, I feel like I've been betrayed by time. Like there's a part of me that's like, I should have been able to be at these gigs, but at the same time I can't complain in that sense.
I don't know, it sounds like the same sort of thing that every old person would say, but music's just not the same now, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I get the same time.
There's still good stuff coming out, but maybe we're just attached to what was around when we were growing up.
Maybe that's it. But also, I feel I was explaining this to my sister the other day. I was saying we've had great times. We've seen some sick music live. We've we've experienced it, and I can't be more grateful than having to be able to see some of my favorite bands live. So
I think rock and roll is taking a bit of a backseat in popular culture now, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think it's also making a comeback when you've got people like Travis Barker just pushing out gold after gold, and there's Machine Gun Kelly, who's somehow a rock star now.
I love how we all started hating him because he challenged Eminem, and I'll be honest, I hated him for a bit because I was like, "How dare you challenge Eminem? You like!" I was like, just sort of. But it's also he's grown on me because he started to be an individual. He's not that guy who was just rapping. He is now Machine Gun Kelly, the original artist who's bringing in people.
Yeah, he just does what he wants. Oh, I think that's what I like about him. He's not worried about what he wears and what people think of it. He just does literally whatever he wants, and I think that's something we could all probably learn something from.
Oh, dude, that so again, bring it back to music overall. That was something that I always liked about you originally. Like you didn't give up, Buck. You were just straight out there. You just said it how it is. There's a lot of people that should learn from that, and there's a lot to be said about people who are willing to admit their faults and share them with other people. And I'd say you're one of those people. How did you become that sort of
person? Couldn't tell you, actually. It just sort of happens. I think
just
you reach a certain point. Yeah, you just reach a certain point where you think this person's opinion means nothing to me, and then that's it. It just happens.
Yeah, because I feel like you've been like this ever since I've known you. You've never there's never a point. It's not been like, oh, you just started being this person. You were just like consistently like this. So it is. I don't think I've seen a change in that, but I am intrigued to know if there was any major event that was like.
I can't really pinpoint it because growing up, I was always raised with you should be proper and you should be this and you should dress this way and not be too outlandish, and yes, what people think about you matters. And I don't know, I guess it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, you realised the world was the Matrix, and you got out of it a little bit. That's the good thing, man. That's the good thing. It's
well, none of it's real anyway, so.
Don't go down the line, mate. We've got a couple of I've got a couple of mates who are a little bit like that, and it does make me laugh. I do think that we do forget, every single one of us, that we're on a moving ball through space and time, circling around a giant ball of fire.
Exactly, man. When you think about it, we are grain of sand in proportion. We are just a sack of meat floating on a rock through space.
Exactly, man. No, but it's perspective, and I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think that means the attitude that you have, where you don't give a fuck, it's going to work for you. You're going to do so much. I mean, for goodness sake, you've done so much in your time. You've created so many different projects. I mean, it's that creative side to you that's going to just keep flowing because of that.
Yeah, you got to keep the fingers in a few pies.
Yeah, man. 100%.
But it's hard staying creative at the moment because there's not really much to do.
Yes.
It's hard getting to band practice when everything's locked down and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Governments don't make it easy for you to create and produce new content, sadly.
They do not.
But,
almost just need to be living in a house with the band, and then we can just do it all day, every day. But then,
well, dude, in March I'm planning to move to London, so
yeah,
you can always hit up. You now have a spot to crash. There you go.
Oh, perfect.
But one thing I was going to ask: what was the first live band you ever saw?
The first live band I saw.
Mm.
I think, I don't know if this counts, but Ian Pace, the drummer from Deep Purple, there was a drum shop that used to be in Woodley called Drumright, and they put on these clinics. So they'd have a famous drummer come in, and he would sort of just put on a workshop. So it was like Ian Pace and friends doing this drum clinic. And I went with both my parents because obviously they like Deep Purple. And there's a few, I don't remember who was doing guitar and keyboard and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I saw that. It was at Rivermead. So they got all the like bleacher benches out, and it was really good.
That's so unique, man. That's a unique sort of gig going on there. Getting a famous drummer coming in, giving a different performance. That's completely different to what I've seen in my first band. That's very strange.
But what was yours?
Mine was Paramore in the O2
nice.
Arena.
Hey man, I can respect it. I got a lot of time for Paramore, believe it or not.
Back in the day, man, that was when I had my hair long and the whole like rock going on at the time. I think I was. How old are you actually?
27.
No, when you.
How
when
old was I?
Yeah, were you?
How old was I?
I know you're 27.
Hey man, a lot of people forget, baby face.
Oh, dude.
Well, I started playing drums at 12, so I must have been into it for a couple of years. So maybe 13, 14.
Yeah, similar age. I think I was 14 when I saw Paramore. So that's. Yeah, man, that's a completely. So, what was your like first major band? What was like the big event sort of thing?
Okay, we're gonna turn up the controversy on this podcast now. Lost Prophets.
Yes. Fucking, I don't care whatever happens, right? Straight up. I know it's an awful, like, horrible human being, but that band made some good music back in the day.
Dude, yeah, their first two albums, musically, crazy good.
Oh man.
Yes, he's a real sort of
piece of work.
I'm not going to swear on this podcast. But
yes. Yeah.
He's not the most savory human.
Yes.
But yeah, their first two albums really good. They soundtracked a lot of my early years, and
yeah,
I love them. I wouldn't change those albums for anything.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people who would say don't listen to Michael Jackson, but I think Michael Jackson's songs are just so like there's so much there. I mean, how do you cancel out someone who's had an effect on music as a whole?
A lot of the time, you don't have to, but it can be good to separate an artist from their art.
Yeah.
Some of their habits don't necessarily affect their art.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a sound way of putting it, and I do love the fact that your first ever live like proper band was Lost Prophets. That's hilarious.
It is really good as well. I'm not gonna lie. And the support act was Bring Me the Horizon just after they released their first album.
That's killer. That's sick. That's so good.
Back when they were good.
Oh, I love that. More controversy in the podcast.
And I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah.
They've moved with the times and they've matured and whatever. But
I remember when Ollie Sykes was like on the front page of Kerrang. I was like reading on the Kerrang magazine. I was like reading through the interviews, and yeah, back in the day, it's very different
when they had girl haircuts. That's where they were good.
That was when we all had girl haircuts, mate. I remember being in the 2000 and I want to say 8, 9, and 10. That was like the popular period for that. And,
I don't know, man. I used to shave my head back then.
you're so like controversial, Jordan. You're just like the person at all times who's just like, nah, mate, I don't follow the crowd. Fuck that shit. I'm out
I
of
don't
it.
even know what I think. Half of it was low maintenance. Half of it was, oh, this would be funny.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get
See, I
you,
just
man.
had all these dumb patterns shaved into my hair. Not patterns, but it was just scruffy, man. It wasn't good.
Do you remember when everyone used to get like the Nike ticks into their head?
I have never had that. So yeah, I can take that to the grave for me.
I thought you were about to like look at me and said, "Oh yeah, I did get that." I was like, "Yeah, fair
No,
enough." No, but yeah, branding. If someone did that to me, I'd just be like, "Well, Nike's got to pay me now because it's in my head." Like,
yeah, if I leave the house, then it's invoice time.
yeah, give me some stock. I want some investments. I want to see this long-term investment go out somewhere.
Mate, the amount of running you do, you should probably do that anyway. Might be
Mate,
able to get a sweet
I
deal
do
out of it.
invest in Under Armour, so yeah.
There you go. I reckon I could do a sweet Under Armour logo in the back of your head.
Yeah, man, that's it. And then they have to pay me even more than I'm already getting from them, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But yeah, no, I think that's fascinating. That you had Bring Me, Lost Profits. Is there anyone else? Because like I
There
feel like
was some other band who opened, but for the life of me, I can't remember what they're called. I knew
mm,
someone who knew what they were called, but I just remember looking at the drummer the whole time because I was still fairly new to drums and obsessed with watching every single drummer.
dude, yeah,
And the way he was playing just sort of stood out to me.
I was always fascinated by Trey Cool's ability to rise. Like his entire arms just like were flying in the air with each like pounding on the drum. It was just insane. So he's always been like, I get like Travis Barker's the majority of people's favorite drummers, but like I'll be honest, like Trey Cool for me was always like the funniest guy in the background, just making these weird faces.
I think with that sort of thing, you have to have them as a musician and an entertainer.
Yes.
And he's got the entertainment part down. He's a really good drummer as well, naturally,
Yeah.
but the
No, he's
entertaining
not the
part.
best technically. No, he's not. But
You
he
don't
is.
need to be.
Yeah.
Because you play for the music as well,
Yes. Well, they're still together, so that's always a big point.
Yeah. Because when was their first album? It was early 90s. I think maybe 93 or something.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So they've got a few years under the belt.
That's good friends.
As far as any job goes, they've yeah. And they've never really had any breakups or anything.
No.
That I know of.
And you look at Blink-182 and they've had like 5 different breakups and over the years.
Oh god, yeah. Oh, fun thing I learned yesterday actually. Billie Joe Armstrong, the singer from Green Day, and Tim Armstrong, not related, the singer from Rancid, who are also one of my favourite bands, have a project together called the Armstrongs.
Ooh, that would be a rather interesting sound, to say the least.
It's actually pretty good. I haven't heard much of it. I checked out one of their songs. It's sort of acousticy, folky sort of sound, but actually really cool.
Oh wow, going different, and that's probably a good idea to just sort of like diverge away from the normal sort of like punk sound. So,
I mean, a lot of Rancid's albums have bonus tracks or deluxe versions with a load of acoustic stuff anyway. Because I listen to that a lot. Their sound lends itself really well to that.
That's intriguing, to say the least. But I would say that bonus tracks, they can either be like absolutely outshine some of the main tracks, or they can be like take it or leave it sort of thing. Is Rancid the same?
No, they're all really good. They're crazy good. Another controversial opinion: if you have a bonus album and the last bonus tracks are just 2 live tracks, you're lazy.
You are lazy. That's so true. I do like that. Yes.
Make some more damn music.
Yes, that's true. I have seen that. I'm trying to think of an album now where that's actually, because you'll see like acoustic is the last few songs, aren't you, on the bonus track? It'll be
acoustic, passable, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're just gonna chuck on a recorded live one, yeah, it might be okay listening. But if I'm buying a bonus album with bonus tracks, I want bonus tracks, man.
I think you've just named New Found Glory as one of the bands that you just read off right there, because they've done that multiple times.
Oh man, dear. It's not cool. If there are any musicians listening to this, don't do that. Make an extra song.
on this podcast we've multiple times we've strived for better. So come on, like be better. Let's do this.
Be better, guys.
Be better. 220 somethings telling you what
Change
to do.
your artwork. Write a couple of songs.
That's it, man. 100%. But yeah, again, like, oh, that's something as well. Artwork, something that always attracts you as a younger kid. Like, you'll just spot an album and be like, I'm going to try this because it looks cool, sort of thing.
This is what I miss about CDs. Spotify, everything is one click away, and you can find new bands like that.
Yes.
But I miss going to VOP or HMV, the big one in town, and you go to the heavy metal section and just look, just see what there is. Be like, right, I've saved up £10 from doing whatever tasks I've done this week, or going to work or whatever. You think, right, what's £10 going to get me? And then you spot like a Killswitch Engage CD. You're like, right, this is happening. And you go home and listen to it all weekend on repeat.
I can totally relate. Although, again, you may disagree with these 3 albums. I remember going into HMV, the first 3 albums I bought in HMV was The Killers' 3 first albums. And I know you're not a fan, but to me, those albums were fantastic until every club in the world started playing Mr. Brightside.
I was about to say the same thing. I think I could have liked them when I first heard them on Kerrang. When I was a little kid, I thought, yeah, this is catchy enough. Yeah. And then I worked in various nightclubs photographing people for 8 years, and hearing Mr. Brightside screamed by drunk teenage girls every night of your life for 8 years.
Yeah.
Not great.
I do feel
I could happily never hear it again.
Yeah. I feel like that's the sort of like, you know, when retail workers talk about like hearing Christmas songs over and over again, that's the equivalent as hearing Mr. Brightside.
Oh, dude, it's horrible. However, one song that clubs never ruined for me that always used to get played, Gotta Get Through This, Daniel Bedingfield. I can happily listen to that again and again and again.
Yeah. I could get you. Yeah, it's the repeated vibe going on there, but yeah. Hang on, what year is that? What year was that made? Like 2000s? Early 2000s, I want to say?
Must be.
Yeah. My God, those were some banging tunes back then. I'm trying to think of...
that song has aged well.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we're in 2020 where, Jesus, I can't remember the last time I bought some music that wasn't on Spotify, basically, which is kind of crazy to think.
So at most I'll get a vinyl here and there if there's a special edition one. That's about it.
Yeah, they've kind of, I mean, this is something that I've seen recently, and I think it was Aerosmith's frontman, is it Tyler? Steve Tyler, yeah. He was talking about how the sort of studios are still taking money from these songs, but he's not getting any of it. So like they signed these contracts in like the 80s and 90s that basically meant that the studios control how these songs get put out, they're distributed.
Damn.
And so if they're on
Spotify, you gotta read the fine print, man.
Dude, he used to tell stories that they would get him purposefully drunk and then put paperwork in front of him. How messed up is that? How messed up. Can you imagine that? If you were doing some work on a car, or you were going to go do some photography work, and they got you drunk and then got you to sign the paperwork for your payment.
Well, now I can't show this podcast to anyone because my friends will probably take advantage of this.
Well, they're not your friends, Jordan, if they do that. They're not your friends. What sort of monstrosity of friends do that to you? My God.
Hey man, I'm a pretty good friend to a lot of people, but I would still do that to most of them. That sounds really funny.
Oh my God, man, that's madness. That's crazy. I would never do that. I'm too wholesome. This is a wholesome meme.
Yeah, man, you're too nice a guy.
I would never do it. That's crazy. Oh my God. Oh dear, oh dear. But yeah, I think that the music industry as a whole at the moment needs changing somewhere or another, because otherwise we're just going to see musicians sort of take a back seat in the creative sense at the moment. Cause...
They basically already have. But I think actual music rather than electronically produced music, no disrespect to producers, they're very good. But I think it's definitely on the rise again.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, what sort of electronic music have I? You have pointed something out there. Lo-fi. Do you listen to lo-fi at all?
Can't say I do.
Can't say. Okay, so it's something that I've seen trend at the moment. It's on YouTube. It's the sort of music I listen to when I'm like coding or working, and it's
Hmm.
just like this sort of electronic, low frequency music that you can just have in the
Okay.
background. And I think I sent you some Star Wars version of it a while ago. Um,
Yeah, I think I did listen to that actually.
and it's
I've
that sort of music that could be the future. I don't
I hope not.
know.
I like it, but I hope not.
Yeah, there's no soul to it. There's like zero soul to it, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's catchy.
It's just sound. It's nice sound, but it's
Yeah,
sound, you know.
yeah, exactly. But
I listen to jazz if I'm in relaxing mode.
dude, I'm glad you brought up jazz. Are you are
I'm
you
nuts
a
for
jazz
jazz.
man?
I'm
Oh,
a jazz man. I listen to it most nights
are you
before
a
I go
fan
to
of
bed.
Bill Evans? Please say.
I don't know if I've heard him.
Oh, you're gonna love it, mate. Bill Evans, Sunday at the Village Vanguard. Look it up when you get a chance. It is
I have to
blows your
check it
mind.
out.
Yeah, man.
I think one of my favorites is this dude called Aaron Goldberg. I think
Okay.
his last release was 2 years ago, but he goes back to like the 90s.
Wow.
I don't remember where I heard the song. I think one of my cousins showed me this song of his, and I loved it so much that I got the album for Christmas that year. I was like early teens or something like that, or mid teens. Still got it, and I've checked out a lot of his stuff because he's on Spotify as well.
Mm,
Really good stuff.
wow.
Very, very talented man.
This is one of the things I'm excited about going to London for is these like jazz sort of
Yeah,
orientated
some
bars.
sweet little underground jazz bar.
Yes, yeah, man. I was talking to George about this for years, and I've never got the chance to go to one. So I am going to definitely take that chance at some point. Are you keen on something like that at some
Oh,
point?
dude, I'm so down for that.
Yes. Oh man,
I
this is
think
this is
the
it.
reality is always so different to what I'm going to picture because in my head I always get this like sleazy underground cocktail bar. The air is heavy with smoke.
I do. I do
There's
know what you mean.
there's dudes in nice hats making shady deals at tables with little lamps on them, and I feel like it's not going to be like that in reality.
Who cares, man? I think that if you don't have an expectation, you'll always be surprised how good it can be. I like to keep that in mind when I'm traveling to a new country. I try not to have any expectations when I
Yeah,
do that.
that's why I think any time out can be defined by the company you keep.
That is super true because I used to go to the old Blues Last in London for
Oh, I've been
gigs.
there.
Yeah, and the first time I went with some mates, and it was the best time ever. We got absolutely smashed and had a fantastic time because we saw Narwhals live for the first
Oh,
time.
sick.
And as you know, yes, punk for life,
Yes.
and amazing. And then I went back there sober, and it was just like, what did I? This is not what I remember. So it was a completely different vibe. Do you have anything
I've
like that?
actually barely ever drank at gigs because I always drove.
Yeah, I forget about that, man. It's funny now because you drink now, right? You drink a little bit
Occasionally.
occasionally. I've basically stopped drinking altogether just because
Mm.
I don't need it anymore, really.
Party
Um,
animal days are behind you.
dude, I kind of look back and think to myself, like, dear God, was that me? Like, oh, yeah. There's a part of me. Well, all I have to do is basically go see George, and he basically tells me tales of previous times, and I have to cringe there, like, no, please stop.
I think
Um,
it's just one of those things that everyone's got to get out of their system when they're younger.
yes, yeah, but at the same time, I don't regret a single minute of it because,
Oh, for sure. That's you've got if you can remember them, you've got good memories there.
yeah, oh man. Yeah, I don't know about you, but whenever I think of gigs in my late sort of early 20s, late teens, they're just epic, just epic.
See, I'm making up for it now because I worked in clubs for so long.
Mm.
Every Friday, every Saturday, I pretty much did every night apart from Sundays and a lot of Wednesdays. There was nothing on, but other than that, pretty much every night. So every time where I would go to a gig, I'd be at work. So I did
Yeah,
years and years and years of not going to any gigs. So I'm trying to make up for it now.
dude, now you're free. This is the best part. We can do this together, both sober, both on a conquest to go see some sick music and have some good times.
100%.
Yeah, man.
Only problem is now every time I go to a gig, I get really bummed out because I want to be on the stage, not in front of it.
See, that to me is really interesting because that says to me that you still have that want and need
Oh,
to
dude, yeah,
play.
it's a need. It's not even a want.
Yeah.
But
And to
it's
that I
annoying to
say, go
think that,
seek it, mate. Go do it. That's what I think. I
yeah.
think you've got the talent. Go, you know.
Well, it should have been happening by now, but COVID put a bit of a halt on it. I joined a band in London.
Yeah.
Sick, really, really talented guys. They're looking for a drummer. Somehow they landed on me. And
Don't say it like that, mate. They got
dude, the
you.
music's good.
Yeah, that's it.
Um, but yeah, there is no music scene at the moment really, or it's paused.
So I know you had issues with people noise complaints for your house. I would have alternatively said you could have recorded like your music in your, you know.
Well, that was what I wanted to do at one point, but the letters from the council started coming.
Oh, mate, how is it that there's like so many rules that have to be in place? I mean, I started this podcast in a pandemic. I feel like that's like the only thing that has been
I don't know,
created.
it happened really weirdly because I've had drums since I was 12 or 13, which, as
Mm,
we know, was ages ago.
mm,
I've been playing them all the time. I used to play for hours on end. Now, I don't play before 12 in the day because I don't want to disturb people's mornings. I
mm,
don't play after 5. I don't want to disturb people when they come home. I don't play on sunny days when people might be outside
mm,
in the afternoon in their garden.
mm.
And I only play for maybe an hour tops, and it'd be once every few weeks. Somehow that earned me a noise complaint. And
Dude, that's
I might have played a little bit more in lockdown, but we had 4 separate neighbours from my block, as it were, sign this thing for the council, and only one person came round to actually talk to us about it. And he said that one of the other neighbours had sort of rallied people together and led this charge. And the guy who came around actually said he didn't even know I had drums until lockdown because he started working from home. He had a window open one day and he heard drums. So we were like, well, why did you sign it? Why didn't you just come and talk to us about it? Why did you just blindly sign this thing at the first hint of someone trying to go against it? But I'm not sure. I haven't played for a while because I haven't had time other
yeah.
than at the rehearsal studios. But I did play for half an hour a couple of months ago, and a few days later, a letter came through.
Killjoys.
But yeah, it's not like
Killjoys.
I'm unreasonable about it. You know, I've set these sort of parameters for when I play to make it less of a pain for everyone, and
I don't know what to
snitches.
say, mate, because to me that's unreasonable. You've clearly tried your best to be in the boundaries of good faith.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would go talk to them, but I don't actually even know who it is because it's all
That's even
anonymous.
worse. That's so bad because they don't have the balls, number one, to come and actually talk to you.
Well, yeah, face to face. If they came and spoke to me and said, you know, would you mind going easy on the drums? I'd say, well, yeah, of course, why not? And
Yeah.
it's a loud thing. I know it's a loud thing. My drums are super loud, but have the balls, man. You know, don't be a pussy.
That's a message to be sent out to all. I'm glad you said that on mic. Yes, that's it. Don't be a pussy. Set it up. What's the phrase that you came up with a couple of months ago? Full send. That was it.
Yeah,
That
full
was
send always.
yes. That was when I first received that. I was like, "What does he mean?" And then I understood the full meaning, and I was like, "It's
Yeah, man,
killer."
no half measures. You know, if you're
It's
gonna do
no,
something, do
no
it
half
properly.
measures. Well, when it comes down to no half measures and music, there's only one man who's been kicking ass since day one, and we both know who that is, and it's
I know
John
who this is gonna
Williams.
be.
John Williams kicking it and making Star Wars music great since day. And
And there's not a lot of bits of music that can move a person like they do. You know.
I was going to ask you about this, and something that I do on a regular basis. I meditate to Star Wars music when I'm
Mm-hmm.
meditating and stuff like that. What do you do? What's the sort of scenario for you when you're listening to it? Is it just like work or just
I think I don't actually listen to it outside of Star Wars that much unless something comes up and I think, you know, this is in front of me. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to check it out again.
mm,
But I don't think there's anything I can do with it. I just sit there and take it in.
yeah? And you're just sort of absorbing the genius that is.
Yeah, because I think as well a measure of a good score is that you can sort of picture and feel how it's supposed to be
Yes.
to go with the music, and it does that perfectly.
Yeah, I totally get you, because I have the same feeling when I'm listening to, oh, it's not going to come to me, but the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, basically. I can't remember the composer's name, which is awful. But at the same time, whenever I hear Hobbiton, it takes me back to New Zealand, and I just immediately picture in my mind the Shire. So I get you on that.
It can totally change a film, a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Well,
you've got your Star Wars and your Lord of the Rings, and those films, they're good anyway. But the soundtrack is just, it makes it, you know.
do you have any films that aren't necessarily good films but have amazing soundtracks?
Off the top of my head, I can't think. I know there's just a lot of underground films that have a really sort of rock and roll feel to them,
Mm,
but a lot of the time that's just songs that have been used rather than actual composed scores, as it were.
yeah. Have you ever watched Tron Legacy at all?
No, I haven't actually seen that. I really wanted to.
Dude, that's a movie, like the storyline's pretty good, but like
Hmm.
Daft Punk kill it on
Yeah,
this. And I was super impressed, because I'm not normally a Daft Punk person, but that soundtrack is just, it gets you into that Tron, like, put on the helmet, I'm
mm.
in the zone. It's like, what's the most recent film by Steven Spielberg? I think it was terrible. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically, you put on a helmet and you entered like a artificial world, and it was a gaming world, and it's on
I
Netflix
did see
actually, I think.
that. Yeah, I think I watched that the other day.
Yeah, it's
Oh, what's
epic.
it called?
Like the whole sort of 80s music in the
Uh,
background, the whole feel of having an 80s, gaming system, basically.
yeah, it
Uh,
was super cool. Because that's the one where they could it was like the developer of the game had set up some hidden thing in the game that they had to find, and
Easter
that's the
eggs.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Give me a second, because I've got the audio book for it, and I mean, I love the audiobook and I love the movie just as much. But the soundtrack for it, Ready Player One, of
That's the
course
one.
it. Ah, killer.
Yeah, that was a crazy good film.
You know what I mean, man? Like it's the 80s vibe that takes you into that sort of, like, I don't know,
I'm a
happiness.
sucker for an 80s vibe as well.
I was going to ask you about this. I know you're into, like, at the moment you're all about the 80s rock sort of era. But what brought you back to that?
Mm, I mean, I've always been into it anyway because it's basically what I grew up on.
Mm,
But I think what really kicked it back off into full force was The Dirt coming out on Netflix. I've watched that about 6 times now.
it is one of my
Um,
favorite music films, just so you know. And it got me
that's
to listen
that's
to
what
them.
actually put Machine Gun Kelly on my radar.
Yeah, yeah,
Because before, I like rap, whatever, but I didn't sit down and think, oh, I really want to listen to MGK.
mm,
But I saw him play Tommy Lee. I was like, this dude rocks.
yes. You know when they're getting together in the first scene and they're all in that one room and it's like some apartment, and then all of a sudden they get together, they just make this a killer music, and then they do this amazing transition where it
Mm.
does goes from the normal apartment and then it's just chaos. That's what I picture rock in the 80s like, as is just like one moment it's nothing and then the next
So
it's just
I think it was cool back then as well.
yeah,
Now I don't really know what you have to be to make it, but back then it was the in thing.
yeah, the
You
long
had all these
hair.
like smelly looking, leather wearing, long haired dudes dating supermodels.
Oh, dude, it is crazy to look at it, because I talked to my parents about it, and I feel like the UK was very different to the
Mm.
US in how the 80s went, sort of thing.
I think
Very,
in the UK you had your things like, obviously the timing's a bit different. We had Sabbath and Maiden and all that sort of stuff, and rather than these like glamorous Hollywood situations, you've got like grotty little English pubs with hairy dudes discussing heavy metal and making heavy metal.
yeah, that's so
Everyone
true.
smells like cigarettes and beer rather
You,
than,
you've
I don't
just
know, whatever
described
America's
something
like.
that's just like kicked off a memory in my head of the type of people that. That just reminds me of Purple Turtle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you've got places like that now, and Yeah, I think that's speaks a bit more of the English scene.
Yeah, it's really different, and I think the Dirt, as you put it, has a sort of glamorous vibe to it as well, doesn't it? It
Mm.
gives you that sort of like love for it. So I'm
I
glad that
do
you
wish
got
they
into
did
it.
it as a series though,
Yeah, that'd
because
have been
I picked up a copy of the book after, and it makes you realize just how much was sort of paraphrased.
yeah, yeah. Because apparently there was a lot more going on. Like that
Mm.
was just like the highlights, as it were.
Yeah, basically, it's a very brief highlight reel of it.
Wow.
Yeah, if they did it as a series, they could have covered a lot more.
Yeah, I would love to see the equivalent. It's basically the same sort of universe, and just have Ozzy Osbourne. I want to see
Mm.
Sabbath, Black Letters. I want to see it in like
Well, I was hoping that the Dirt doing so well would sort of kick a few other bands like the arse, like a Sabbath one or an Aussie one, a
yeah,
Guns N' Roses one would be
yeah.
wild.
That'd be insane.
I would watch the hell out of that.
That'd be madness. Can you imagine Axl Rose coming back for one more ride, just to put his ego aside and say, "All right, I can kick it with you guys."
That would be awesome.
But so
I don't,
with these big bands, like they've clearly had an influence on you, and they've clearly sort of provided you some inspiration to get back in the music, get back on the drums, and go out and start your own thing. Is there anything that you would say to like kids of today who don't have that inspiration?
you can find it anywhere. I think you have to have a drive for it to start with,
Mm,
but a lot of the time you will just stumble across something one day that just makes you think, this is what I need to do. When I
yeah,
was a kid, I started playing drums and I was massive into Green Day and all this sort of stuff. I heard Slipknot, Joe Jordison, and that was it. That just set me off on a warpath to play as much heavy metal as I could.
you've just, as soon as you said Slipknot, their most popular song just kicked into my head. Run it! Oh my god, crazy times. Kerrang used to play that on a regular basis. You know that? Oh, I forgot. This is my memory as
The
well.
good
I
old
hate
days.
the good old days of just like hearing regular rock music on TV. And this is how disconnected I am kind of from TV at the moment. I don't know about yourself, but
I haven't
um,
watched TV in years.
exactly. And my parents are like, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that?" I'm like, "Dude, the two things I watch are YouTube and Netflix, and that's
Yeah,
like as
right.
far as it goes." It's like, how crazy is that we used to get up in the mornings on Saturdays to be able to watch programs, and we used
Mm.
to have to go to specific channels to be able to find music, and
I used
go
to
to
know all the channels off by heart, all the numbers, what
yeah.
times to put things on.
Same. Do you remember VHS? Like how
Yeah.
crazy you used to be able to physically rewind, like physically be able to move the tape and then move it back, put it back in. Oh dear.
Oh, dude, I had a little memory trip like that when I bought one of my cars, the 1988 Scirocco.
One of my
It's the
favorites.
only thing it has is a tape player.
No.
So it had me digging out all my dad's old tapes to play in the car and stuff.
Oh man, I love that. That's so
Yeah,
cool
pretty
though, because
cool.
you could rediscover some like music or some audio or something that could,
Yeah.
you know. Was there anything that you
Yes.
did find?
I had this Stranglers tape. That was a bit. Some of it was alright. I
You're
think.
like, yeah.
I think there might have been a Thin Lizzy one or something, and obviously Thin Lizzy are sick.
I was about to say, Thin Lizzy. I have a playlist where it's just called Pure Pump. And when I'm working out, I'll just have like
So
Ozzy,
all the time
Thin
then.
Lizzy. Basically, yeah. Basically, on a regular basis, I'll switch it up between what you love, 80s metal. I'll have as like one of my workouts. I'll have like pop punk party as another one. Just chucking it all out there. I'll have some
Dude, when I'm
noughties.
exercising, that's the sort of stuff I play. I've got this I made a playlist just called Solo Bike Rides because I always ride by myself. I go do
Dude,
laps of
yeah,
the woods and stuff
yeah.
just to try and stay in shape at my old age. But that's all
27.
like that's like Basement, Title Fight, all that sort of stuff.
Dude, how crazy is it that we were texting back and forth? I went and saw Basement live at Reading, and you were like,
Still never seen them.
we were literally texting you, dude, I'm about to see Basement. Why aren't you here? Like, it's just like, oh
Oh man,
man.
I'm still jealous, you know.
well, we still can see them. They're still, they're still a band. They're still around, and I'm sure they'll be
Need to
playing.
make it happen.
Yeah, man. They're just one of those bands that them and roaming the room. Is it roaming the room or room?
Citizen. Did Roam the Room, didn't
Yeah,
they?
roam the room by Citizen always sticks in my head as that sort of like music. Title Fight. All of these bands, they have this subgenre of rock that just sort of it to me at the time I was depressed, and I listened to that, and it got me in this zone of getting out of it, because I remembered like, oh wow, these guys are like, that's real depression in my mind. It's like when Chester Bennington talked about it, this is what real sadness is, and I was always like, wow.
I think the grungy stuff like that makes it worse for me. It just bums me out even more. I like it, I love it,
Yeah,
but I need the really like upbeat stuff, like Old Story So Far, like Under Soil and Dirt, just pure energy.
dude. You know when I'm running, I have Quicksand on there, and it will just like play Quicksand, and I'll just be like, I can run another 2 miles. I got this. Like I'm ready to go. And it's one of those songs, one of those albums that
That's
I love.
I know, like if I'm going a bit harder on a ride,
Yeah,
or if I'm going to do something like any form of vigorous exercise, I just stick hardcore playlists on, man.
yes.
Like some New York hardcore punk.
Do you remember Let Live?
I do. I never really got that into them.
They're savage. Their original like early albums, like they're hardcore. Some of them, they were pretty intense. But yeah,
I had some of their music ages ago. I don't remember what it was now, but this was like 2010, 2011 maybe.
Yeah, that
I had
would
a
have
couple
been,
of their tracks.
yeah, prime
I thought
time.
it was okay, but I never really followed up because at the time all I wanted to listen to was Architects.
I never listened to Architects, to be fair. I think I got put off, not because they're not a good band, but because of the types of people who listen to them. Some of the people of my year who listened to Architects, I was like, you guys are dicks, so I will not listen to it and have that association. And I wish that wasn't
I'm going to
a thing.
be that guy again and just say that like their first few albums really good, and then they fell off a bit because it was all just really technical, like math metal, tech metal stuff, really good, high quality British tech metal.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just got really just meh.
Yeah.
And they've started releasing really heavy stuff again, but it doesn't have the same appeal that it did. Hollow Crown, if you have time, check out Hollow Crown. Wicked album.
Nice.
Really
I'm
good.
always on the lookout to add basically new playlists that I'll listen to. And
it's all pretty full on stuff. It's an aggressive album to say the least.
It's fine, bud. I need
cool.
90. I like to think 90% of the time I'm nice, good heart, Chris, and then like when I'm working out, I'll take the 10% of the time to be the savage person that I become during these workouts, and that's a perfect soundtrack for it. It sounds like.
And you stick on Hollow Crown, your whole run is just going to come one sprint.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I'm down for that. And nothing is better in my mind than a good like savage song and a good like sort of, you feel like when you're sweating, and I imagine this when you're riding, you feel like the wind, and you feel like the atmosphere is just intensified by having.
Yeah, there's no better feeling.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said this, man, because it's very hard sometimes for me to relate to I find it hard to express myself sometimes when it comes down to how much I love music and how much I love how it makes me feel better. And one of my
pushes you on a bit.
It does, and
so I think a lot of the time, if you have no music and the pain starts, you're like, oh man, I need a break, I need to stop. But then you've got the right music on, and you think the pain starts is where the progress starts.
100%. And I think that for you from the early days when you were like starting this journey of getting into heavy metal, did you ever find that you weren't interested, or you weren't like, there was a point where you're just like, I don't like where this type of music is going?
No, I think every time I heard a new song, for the most part, just sort of drove the hooks deeper and deeper in.
I think
I'd find something. I still do the same thing now occasionally, because that's the good thing about Spotify. It recommends you artists that it has figured out would be good for you. Yes. And I used to put on a CD, and then I'd find another CD, or I'd find something else by the same band, like an older or a newer album, and just you spiral and spiral. And my dad's been really helpful with that as well, because he, obviously in his years, has heard a lot more of these heavy metal bands than I have. and he knows about all these ones that I would never otherwise have heard of. And I've actually got an entire playlist on Spotify of ones my dad has recommended me. So a lot of the time he will come and tell me, listen to this band.
What a
I saw
legend.
them. I saw them in '88 or whatever. And I'm like, I'm really jealous.
I just want to give him a fist bump over through the screen. Just be like, yes. Just like, good work. You're doing the Lord's work here.
No, he's a pretty cool dude. To be fair,
Yeah, man.
loves
Hard
his
working as well.
heavy metal, motorbikes, and working hard.
Yeah, man. 100%. I think that you and me, we've been super lucky. Like, I know a couple of people who, you know, they didn't get this love of music, this love of like a different genre as well. You know, it's very different, and you know, I don't like being the same as everyone else. I think that's something that I'll always be as a little.
It's a
bit
waste
different.
of being a person to be like everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was going to ask you about this when we did become mates, and we did like this was something we bonded over immediately. Were you ever just sort of just because I wasn't that type of kid, if you know what I mean? Like I'm a very happy, smiley kid. So when it comes down to like like rock and roll and like pop punk, were you ever surprised that you were like, oh
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah,
A little bit. I was like, this dude's so nice.
yeah,
You know, he doesn't seem angry or sad or anything. He's just like you are now, just Mr. Smiley.
mm,
And obviously, you know, everyone's got their things that don't show on the surface, but I thought, it doesn't seem like the heavy metal kind of dude.
yeah. I'm glad,
You know who we
man.
are.
I like that. I like the V for Vendetta mask to be placed over my face, and then the world
Wolf
doesn't.
in sheep's clothing and all that.
Exactly, man. That's it. That's how it is. But the other side of it, and I watch a lot of clips for Chester Bennington
Mm.
about him describing sort of mental health and stuff like that. And so I've been lucky enough never to have to, you know, seriously suffer, um, you know, with any sort of like suicidal thoughts or anything like that. But I do love that, you know, his expression, his music, and he inspired me from a very young age to, you know, to not inflict pain upon yourself. You know, you take that music, you listen to it, and you're just like, right, gonna get on a good path. I'm gonna go do some good stuff today, and I'm gonna enjoy life a little bit. Do you ever feel that, or am I?
Yeah, I do. I like that sort of power that music can have over people, or musicians that can have over people. You know,
Yeah,
and when they use it for good.
yeah, man. Do you think you're gonna
It's
do
not
that?
even directly using it for good. Well, I don't know. I can't really say. I hope
I
so.
think you will. I have a feeling. I have a good feeling, but I'm hoping so as well. I'm hoping that you had an influence over me where you know, to me you were like the cool older brother. You showed like the cool music. You had like and Ben's gonna kill me for saying this because he fucking doesn't think this at all probably, but like at the same time you had this cool music taste. You didn't give a fuck, all of these things, and you took me under your wing, man, like 100%. So I, you know, at that time didn't have a lot of people to talk to about music, so I will continually thank you for being
Man,
a
if it rubbed off, I'm happy.
yeah, man, 100%, 100%. You're like Rollins. You got to be out there. You got to be like Rollins and
Man,
stick it out,
that's a title I can't compare to, man. Dude's a
man.
god.
That's it. He's a legend, but again, he's human. And you and me, we both know this. I was actually going to ask you about this. I know you're not like too deep into it, but did you ever listen to some of his music, like from the early days, and sort of get, you know, get that feeling that he wasn't just the rock star. He had that sort
I
of
haven't yet.
no,
I've had a fairly limited experience with the dude.
yeah,
Most of it comes from you, to be honest.
yes.
But everything you tell me, I'm like, this guy's so cool. I need to go check it out.
Dude, man, he started in when he saw Black Sabbath. He got to interview Black Sabbath back in the day, and Sharon Osbourne basically gave him the okay back in 2003 to interview the entire band before they did like the last, you know, shebang for the band, even though they're still together. Henry went from that interview. He did this, and then he did a tour of Africa. And ever since then, up to this point, he's been to one country in Africa each year, a new country in Africa.
That's pretty cool.
And this guy takes boundaries and he just blows through them. But at the same time, he's so honest
Mm.
So that's what I get from you, is this honesty. And we need more people like that, because the world's currently feeling so sort of like shoulders up tight, just sort of like,
Yeah, man, there's no time for BS. They've
exactly,
got nothing to prove, so
exactly, man. But I
just be
was going to
yourself,
ask
man.
you,
Doesn't matter what anyone thinks.
do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel that you get annoyed with the world? Because Henry sees that as well, and he gets like shouty.
Yeah, only like 20 times a day.
Only 20. Only 20. 21 could be worse. Could be worse.
Yeah.
Do you think you
Yeah, I don't
funnel
know.
that
I
into
think
your
there's.
music? Do you think you're going to put that into your music?
Hey, man, I'm just the drummer. I just hit things, you know. If I wrote the words, it might be a different story.
Might be a different story. Definitely, definitely. And
But playing drums is definitely a good release. It is quite a workout, especially playing this sort of music that I do. Like the first audition, as it were, I had for my band. We had this jam. I learned a few other songs. And we just smashed it out for about 3 hours. Dude, I was sweating buckets.
yeah, man. Yeah.
I was
That's how
this
Travis
like
stays in shape.
this long-haired guy that turned up to a room full of strangers. After like 2 songs, I had my t-shirt off for the whole thing.
Because you're putting it out there, man. You're also like, you're physically putting it out there, and you're also, you're putting your soul on the line a little bit in some way or another.
I just can't be one of those drummers that just sits still and taps along, you know.
Yeah. No, I'm
I'm
so glad, man.
putting my whole body into it, man.
What would you give advice for people getting into drums at the moment? What's the
Practice,
key?
practice.
Yes.
Practice more than I ever did because I didn't practice enough.
Okay.
And find like-minded individuals. So, that quiet kid in your class, maybe he plays guitar. Go jam together, man. Learn some songs, write some songs. Doesn't matter how dumb you think it is or how dumb other people might think it is. Get creative, play around with it.
Exactly, man. No, that's beautiful. And what I think that's probably the best way to end this podcast, man. You've given some advice to people. You've been honest. You've talked about, music. You've talked about how you get inspired, and you're putting all of this out there on the line. You're joining a new band. I think you've done a lot, bud. There's a lot out there, and I'm gonna talk to you a lot more after this in the next podcast, where we're doing the Star Wars Lads podcast.
Dude, I'm crazy excited for the Star Wars podcast.
It's gonna be intense. I think.
Have you watched Mandalorian yet?
I've watched the first few episodes. Please don't spoil the next episode, please. I'm begging you, man, because I've been waiting to see Ahsoka in the episode for so long.
Yeah, the one that dropped yesterday. Strap in, man.
I'm ready. I'm ready for a ride.
It's good. But we're gonna have a chat about that in the next one.
Legendary. We're going to talk about your lightsabers behind you. We're going to everything. It's going to probably end up being a 3-hour podcast. It's going to challenge one of my longer podcasts, 100%.
Mate, I'm good for it. I'll get the lightsabers charged up.
Yes. Dude, Jordan Green, thank you so much for being on the podcast. You're always welcome, my friend. And thank you for being inspirational to so many. And you will continue to do that because you don't give a fuck. And that's a good thing.
Hey, man, you too. I think there's a lot of people who could learn a lot from you.
Small bits, incremental steps, bud. Incremental steps. Anyway, this has been a Tell Us Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and that's Jordan Green. Stick around. See you next week.
Yeah, man.